Hello class, good morning everyone. Today I'll be discussing about the Internet Domain Name System, and this is your Professor Rodel'S. So what is DNS class? So when the DNS was not into existence, no one had to download a host file, so containing host names and their corresponding IP address. So, but with increase in number of hosts of internet, so the size of host file is also increased. So this resulted in increased traffic on downloading this file. So to solve this problem, the DNS system was introduced. So the domain name system helps you to resolve the host name to an address. It also uses a hierarchical naming scheme and distributed database of IP addresses and associated names. So the domain name system class is the hierarchical and distributed naming system now used to identify computers reachable through the internet or other internet protocol networks. So the resource records containing the DNS associate domain names with the other forms of information. So the domain name system class is the phone book of the internet. Humans access information online through domain names and like mytimes.com or espn.com. Diba? Web browsers interact through internet protocol IP address. And DNS translates domain names to an IP addresses so browsers can load internet resources. So each device connected to the internet has a unique IP address, no? Which other machines use to find the device. DNS servers eliminate the need for humans to memorize IP addresses such as yung 192.168.11, di ba? In an IPv4 or more complex alphanumeric addresses such as in IPv6. So how does DNS work? The process of DNS resolution involves converting a host name such as example.com, di ba? Into a computer friendly IP address. So such as 192.168.11. No? This an IP address is given to each device on the internet, and that address is necessary to find the appropriate internet device, like a street address, is used to find a particular home. Right? So when a user wants to load a web page, a translation must occur between user types into their web browser. So, and the machine-friendly addresses necessary to locate the example.com page. So, in order to understand the process behind the DNS resolution, so it's important to learn about the different hardware components a DNS query must pass between. So, for the web browser, the DNS lookup occurs behind the scenes and requires no interaction from the user's computer apart from the initial request. So talking about the IP addressing, this IP address is a unique logical address assigned to a machine over the network. So an IP address exhibits the following properties. So number one is the unique address assigned to each host present on the internet. And this IP address is a 32 bits, 4 bytes long. So IP address also consists of two components, which is network component and host component. So each of the 4 bytes is represented by a number from 0 to 255, separated with dots. Now, for example, the 127.170.4.134. So this internet protocol manages the process of assigning each unique device its own IP address. And internet protocols do other things as well, such as routing internet traffic. So this way, it is easy to see which devices on the internet are sending, requesting, and receiving what information. So IP address classes are like telephone numbers. They serve the same purpose. So when you contact someone, example, your phone number identifies who you are, and it assures the person who answers the phone that you are to say you are. So the IP address do the exact same thing when you're online. That's what every single device that is connected to the internet has IP address. So the parts of your IP address has two parts. The network ID, now comprising the first three numbers of the address using the host ID. So the fourth number in the address. So on your home network, the 192.168.11, for example, is the network ID, and the final number is the host ID. So the network ID class indicates which network, the device is. The host ID refers to the specific device, on the network, and usually your router is that one. Each subsequent device gets assigned that to that way and so on. So you may not always want the outside world not to know exactly which device and network you're using. So in this case, it's possible to mask your IP address from the outside world, through a virtual private network. So when you're using a VPN, it prevents, your network from revealing your address. So what is your a uniform resource locator? It refers to a web address, which uniquely identifies a document over the internet. And URL has two types, the absolute and the relative. So going back with the URL plus, it is surprisingly to many, the answers. But the term are used so interchangeably. It's understandable why people confuse one from the other. So, but there is a difference. So domain name is a part of the URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So we can see the visual difference in the following example of that, like the domain name, that index.xhtml. So that's the URL. So in order for computer networks and servers to talk to one another, computers rely on language that's made up of numbers and letters called an IP address. And every device that connects to the internet has a unique IP address and looks something like this, like the one that I mentioned a while ago. So in order to navigate easily or the web, typing in a long IP address isn't ideal or realistic to an online user. So this is the reason why domain names were created. So to hide IP addresses, with something more memorable, you could consider the domain name as a nickname to the IP address. So the URL incorporates the domain name along with other detailed information. So to create a complete address, or web address to direct a browser to a specific page, online called a web page. So in reality, it's a set of directions, and every web page has a unique one. So absolute URL class is a complete address of a resource, on the web. This completed address comprises of protocol, use, server name, path name, and file name. So the protocol part tells the web browser how to handle the file. Similarly, we have some other protocols that can also be used to create a URL, like the file transfer protocol, the HTTPS, the Gopher, the mail to, and the news. So this absolute URL class is the full URL, including protocol like HTTP and HTTPS. So the optional subdomain, which is www, the domain example.com, and the path, which includes the directory and slot. Absolute URL provides all the available information to find the location of the page. Relative URL class is a partial address of a web page. Unlike absolute URL, the protocol and server part are omitted from relative URL. So the relative URL class is the URL that includes only the path. And the path is everything that comes after the domain, including the directory and slug. So because relative URLs don't include the entire URL structure, it is assumed that when linking a relative URL, it is choosing the same protocol, the subdomain and domain as the page it's on, no? So like for example, slash about slash thing slash. No? So what's the difference class between the relative and the absolute? Now we have for the absolute URL. I used to link web pages now on different website. It's difficult to manage. It changes when the server name or directory name changes and takes time to access. For the relative URL, it's used to link web pages within the same website, easy to manage, remains the same event, even change the server name or directory name, and comparatively faster to access. So the URL plus specifies the location of a target now stored on a local or network computer. So the target can be a file, directory, or a page, image, program, and so on. And the absolute URL contains all the information necessary to locate a resource. So a relative URL class locates a resource using an absolute URL as a starting point. In effect, the complete URL of the target is specified by concatenating the absolute and relative URLs. So the absolute URL uses the following format, scheme server path resource. A relative URL also typically consists only of the path. Now, and optionally, the resource, but no scheme or server. We have the following tables that define the individual parts of the complete URL file. The scheme now specify how the resource is to be accessed. Server specifies the name of the computer where the resource is located. Path specifies the sequence of directories leading to the target. Now, if resource is omitted, now the target is the last directory in path. For the resource, if included, now the resource is the target and is typically the name of the file. It may be a simple file containing a single binary string of bytes or a structured document containing one or more storages and binary streams of bytes. Domain name system architecture class. So the domain name system comprises of a domain names, domain namespace, name server that have been described. Like the domain names. No, domain name is a symbolic string associated with an IP address, and there are several domain names available. Some of them are generic, such as .com, .edu, .gov, .net, while some country level domain names such as AU, IN, ZA, US, etc. So the DNS architecture consists of a hierarchical and decentralized name resolution system for computers, services, or any other resources connected to the internet or a private network. It restores the various associated information of the domain names assigned to each of the resources. So the domain name systems is a naming database, in which internet domain names are located, and translated into internet protocol addresses. So the domain name system maps, the name of people, used to locate a website, to the IP address, that a computer uses to locate the website as well. So class domain names, these are actually unique, human readable, internet addresses of websites. They are also made of three parts, yung top level domain, sometimes called as extension, or the domain suffix. Yung domain name, tinatawag nating IP address, and an optional subdomain. So let's say a generic domain name. For the domain name, we have com. The meaning of that's the commercial business. For the edu, we have education. We have gov, that is usually government agency. Int, we have international entity, MIL, US military, or military in other country. Net, networking organization, or non-profit organization. So the generic name domain is a word or set of words that's commonly found in the dictionary. So such as toothpaste.com or videogame.com, diba? These are generic domains that can be uh, in a certain TLD. No? However, .com, TLD is the most valuable generic domain name of all. So a generic domain class name is easier to remember than an unfamiliar brand. Now, the generic domain name also provides a degree of trust or authority, as the user knows exactly what to expect, when they visit the website. And generic domain names are easier to rank high in organic search result on Google. And a generic domain name also is a word or set of words that's commonly found in the dictionary. Next, country domain names, we have AU for Australia, IN for India, CL for Chile, diba FR for France, US for United States, ZA for South Africa, UK for United Kingdom, JP for Japan, ES Spain, DE Germany, Canada CA, Estonia EE, Hong Kong HK, and of course Philippines PH. Diba? Alternatively referred to as a namespace. This domain namespace is a name service provided by the Internet for Transmission Control Protocol networks or Internet Protocol, no? Yung mga TCP/IP. The DNS is broken up into domains, no? A logical organization for computers that exists in a larger network. So domain namespace is a hierarchy in the Internet naming architecture structure. Now, this hierarchy has multiple levels from 0 to 107, which at the root at the top. No? Name server class. A name server contains a DNS database. This database comprised of various names, no, and their corresponding IP address. So since it is not possible for a single server to maintain entire DNS database, therefore, the information is distributed among many DNS servers. So hierarchy of server is the same as hierarchy of names. And the entire namespace is divided usually into the zones. No? A name server also translate domain names, no, into IP addresses and store and organize DNS records, no, each of which pairs a domain with one or more IP addresses. No? These servers act as a bridge, no, between domain names, which our humans can remember, no, with IP address, which computers can process. For the zones class, these are collection of nodes under the main domain. No, the server maintains the database called zone file for every zone. So especially one that is different from the areas around it, no? Because it has different characteristics or is used for different purposes. Like for a danger or safety zone, diba? So a zone is an area that has particular features or characteristics. Many people have stayed behind, no, in this particular part in the internet because this is basically consists of a certain zone that specifies a certain process or certain advocacy, no, that promotes their page. So next we have types of name server, root server. Root server is the top level server which consists of the entire DNS tree. So it does not contain the information about domains but delegates the authority to the other server. Primary server class stores a file about its zone. It has also the authority to create, maintain, and update the zone file. For the secondary server class is transfer complete information, about a zone, from other server which may be primary or secondary server. Secondary server classes that have authority not to create or update a zone file. So this name server that translate domain names into IP address. Name servers also stores and organizes DNS records, each of which pair a domain with one or more IP addresses, and the server acts as the bridge between domains and which computers can process. So thank you for listening, Wes. I'll be giving you a synchronous activity regarding this. Thank you and God bless you.